Good morning everyone, it's Andy from electricpetrolhead. I've come into Milton Keynes today just to talk about what the i3 is like in a typical British dreary wet weather. And there's something that Milton Keynes has quite a lot of, and it's one of these. It's called a roundabout. Might be a little bit rarer for my American viewers. Although I did see quite a few near Breckenridge randomly when I went up skiing. But anyway, the thing about the i3 is it has incredibly narrow tyres, and this has a lot of benefits for the efficiency of the car, and one of my favourite parts of it, the turn-in circle. It can just turn really, really well. Not quite London taxi well, but you know, pretty well. But the problem with having such a narrow amount of rubber on the ground is that it kind of loses a little bit in terms of handling and then also grip for acceleration. There's just physically less grip, so you're going to struggle to put the power down. For the purpose of this video, let's break it down into the two separate areas. So we've got handling and we've got acceleration. So let's talk about handling. Now, like I said in the introduction, the tyres are narrower, you've got less rubber in contact with the ground, thus you've got less grip. And being in Milton Keynes, we're coming up to yet another roundabout. There's quite a few around. And, you know, if we just do a quick loop around this roundabout, you know, you've got the grip, but it's just not quite as much there as you would have in, say, you know, a Tesla Model 3, for example, which, if we're honest, are not that much more money than buying an i3. But the grip is there, and with BMW, you know, talking about themselves being the ultimate drive machine, they've looked at the cars and made sure that they handle well. And I actually think it makes the i3 an incredibly fun car to drive. And it's one of the reasons that a lot of my die-hard petrolhead friends with Porsches, Ferraris, etc. Quite a few of them actually, have an i3 as their little runaround car because they are fun to drive. And of course, there's a lot of benefits that come with those narrower tyres, such as a turn-in circle and the efficiency of the car when you're driving in normal conditions. So, on balance, for what this is, which is a small sort of city car, it makes sense to have the benefit of those narrower tyres. And because BMW know how to make a car that handles, the times that you do hit that limit of grip sooner than you would in, say, a Model 3, you know what's going to happen, and you know everything is fine. So take it easy the first time you drive an i3 in the wet. It is rear-wheel drive, but the traction control will cut in pretty quick, to be honest. And I'll talk about traction control in the second part of this little movie on wet weather grip. See you in a minute. Now, the second thing to consider when you're talking about wet weather, performance, grip, and all those type of things is acceleration. And something that slightly annoys me about this i3, which is 120 amp hour 2019 model, is that if it feels there's no grip there, it just cuts the power. You know, this isn't a car you can wheel spin in normal, you know, conditions and in normal settings. That makes it safe. It just bogs down a little bit. You know, the traction control cuts in, and that's fundamentally just because the designers knew that the tyres were narrow. It wasn't going to be able to put down the power, and you do just learn how to drive around that. I don't see this as a massive problem, because, you know, cars like, you know, the Tesla P100Ds, for example, they just burn through tyres so quickly. You know, and this is a performance, small, sort of super mini type car, designed for driving around cities. This is not a performance car. Right, so I'm just coming up to another roundabout here. So I'm coming to a stop. And if I floor it, and then it goes. So what happens is the traction control will just limit that power until it feels that grip, and then it will go. And it's a bit frustrating because in something like I keep referring to it, but it's a car I've got a lot of experience with. Cars like Teslas, you can launch them and properly go back, and in a way the i3 doesn't get that initial bite, so it's never quite as impressive. And what I always say to people is, if you want to feel the performance in an i3, don't launch it off at a traffic light. The way to do it is to feed that power in gently, which is fundamentally what you should be doing anyway. Now, one of the main benefits of having the narrower tyres is that the turning circle is ridiculously good. Now, I've come into a deserted car park because no offices are open at the moment. We've got basically a narrower part of 2 lanes through the middle, and then parking spaces off to the left and right. And if I just put the full lock on, you can just go round in such a tiny little circle. It makes for navigating sort of city centres. I know Milton Keynes is not officially a city, and it's a very forward-thinking place in terms of, the grid system makes it really useful. But if you were driving around, the narrow streets of Milan or somewhere like that, an i3 would be amazing. And I think, for all things considered, I know I've talked about some negative sides of getting the power down. Those narrow wheels just make for a really satisfying car. It's amazing. It's really good. So in summary, I've kind of gone over these points a few times, but just to really make it clear, the narrow tyres on the i3 are there for the efficiency in the turning circle. That makes it a very, very enjoyable, satisfying car to own, especially if you live in a city or a town and you're going down narrow roads. The downside are the handling around a roundabout. You lose that traction a little bit sooner and at a lower speed than you would in another car. And when you're accelerating from a straight line, what will happen is the traction control will kick in and you won't get that sort of real thrust that you would in, say, a Tesla. But fundamentally that's okay, because this is a small city car, and the handling makes it really good fun. And really, in normal day-to-day driving, you shouldn't be launching off every traffic light, although most Tesla people do because it's fun. But in all things considered, I think that's a small price to pay for what is actually a fundamentally fantastic, brilliant car. And I think it makes for a really fun car. So enjoy if you buy an i3. I think they're brilliant. Thank you for watching. If you've liked this video, please click that like button and subscribe for more. I'll see you soon. Bye.